I never imagined my dream relationship would shatter over a single document. The memories of my parents screaming over assets during their divorce still haunted me. So when I proposed to Allison after 2 incredible years together, I thought a prenup was just common sense. My software company had recently been acquired, and I needed to protect what I had built. Her reaction blindsided me completely. Those beautiful eyes turned cold as she declared those fateful words. Before I continue, where are you watching this from? Hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you have ever had to protect yourself from someone you loved. Growing up in Seattle with front row seats to my parents, bitter divorce shaped me in ways I never fully understood until recently. My father, a successful architect, lost almost everything to my mother, who had actually cheated on him with his business partner. The court still favored her, and I watched my dad rebuild from nothing while living in a studio apartment. He would tell me, "Derek, always protect what you work for," words that echoed through my adult life. After graduating from Stanford with a computer science degree, I poured everything into building Securitech, a cybersecurity software startup. 16-hour days, ramen noodle dinners, and a mattress on my office floor became my reality for 3 years. When we finally secured our first major client, a Fortune 500 company, everything changed. 5 years of growth later, a tech giant acquired us for $73 million. My share came to $22 million, which I carefully invested in real estate stocks and seed funding for other startups. My success came at the cost of relationships. Catherine, my college girlfriend, left when I could not give her the time she wanted. Then came Jessica, who mysteriously became more affectionate after my first $1 million in funding. When I overheard her telling a friend about the designer bags I would buy her once we were married, I ended things immediately. By 32, I had wealth, but remained cautious with my heart. That changed at the Northwest Tech Summit 3 years ago. I was presenting on emerging security threats when I noticed a woman in the front row asking the most insightful questions. Allison Harrington, with honey blonde hair and sharp green eyes, worked as a marketing director for a competing firm. After my talk, she challenged my views on consumer data protection with such brilliance that I asked her to continue the discussion over coffee. One coffee became dinner, which became weekend hikes exploring the Pacific Northwest trails. Allison was everything I had been searching for: intelligent, ambitious, and seemingly genuine. She had grown up in Portland with parents who were still married after 35 years, graduated from UCLA, and built her career from entry-level coordinator to director in just 6 years. "I believe in working for what you want," she told me on our third date, as we watched the sunset from Mount Rainier. "Nothing worth having comes without effort." Unlike past relationships that felt transactional, Allison and I connected on deeper levels. We debated business ethics, shared childhood memories, and dreamed about future innovations. When I confided about my parents' divorce, she held my hand and said, "That will never be us." After 1 year, I asked Allison to move into my lakefront home. She filled the space with warmth artwork on previously bare walls, fresh flowers on the dining table, and weekend brunches with friends. I noticed she preferred luxury brands and expensive restaurants, but her own successful career justified these tastes. When she suggested renovating the kitchen with imported Italian marble countertops costing $40,000, I agreed, because seeing her happy made me happy. My friends embraced her, especially my best friend Jason, who worked as a financial advisor. "She sees you, not just your bank account," he said after their first meeting. My mother remained slightly reserved, but I attributed this to her general distrust after what happened with Dad. On our second anniversary, I took Allison to Santorini, where I proposed on a cliffside balcony overlooking the Mediterranean sunset. The vintage 3-carat diamond ring cost $180,000 more than I had planned to spend, but Allison had casually mentioned her dream ring while browsing jewelry months earlier. Her yes came with happy tears and excited calls to family and friends before the dessert arrived. That night, as she slept beside me, I felt complete. Within days, wedding planning consumed our conversations. Allison envisioned a 200-guest celebration at the Olympic Sculpture Park with a designer gown, 5-course dinner, and honeymoon in the Maldives. The estimated cost approached $300,000, but I reminded myself that this would be our only wedding. The prenup conversation began, innocently enough. 6 months before our wedding date, While reviewing vendor contracts in our living room, I casually mentioned that we should schedule time with my lawyer to discuss a prenuptial agreement. Allison froze mid-sentence, her highlighter hovering over the catering contract. What? Prenup, I explained, surprised by her reaction. Just standard protection for both of us. You have your family inheritance to protect too. Her expression transformed so quickly it unsettled me. The warm smile vanished, replaced by narrowed eyes and tightened lips. Are you planning for our divorce before we even get married? Not at all. It is just responsible financial planning, I said, setting aside the wedding binder. Most couples with assets do this. Allison stood up, arms crossed tightly. Most couples trust each other. Is that what I am to you? A potential threat to your precious money. Her words stung. This has nothing to do with trust. My parents, I am not your mother. Derek, I cannot believe you would compare our love to your parents' failed marriage. Our first major argument lasted 3 hours. Every logical explanation I offered was countered with emotional responses that made me feel shallow and untrusting. When I mentioned that the agreement would protect her assets too, she scoffed. My modest savings and future inheritance are nothing compared to your millions. This is about you not seeing a future with me. Eventually exhausted and confused, I suggested we both think about it and revisit the conversation later. She agreed with a cold fine before sleeping in the guest room that night. The next day I met Jason for lunch at our usual spot downtown. After ordering, I explained the situation, expecting his usual balanced perspective. Dude, that is a red flag, Jason said, immediately lowering his voice. Anyone who reacts that strongly to basic financial protection has something to hide. She just sees it as a lack of trust. I defended, though doubt had begun creeping in. Jason leaned forward. You have $22 million in assets, multiple properties, and equity in 7 startups. What legitimate reason would she have to oppose protecting that? Maybe it is just the principle. Her parents have been married forever without prenups. Different generation, different wealth levels, Jason countered. Talk to Sandra. Get professional advice before making any decisions. Sandra Parker had been my family lawyer since my first business contract. 2 days later, in her downtown office overlooking Elliott Bay, I explained my dilemma. This reaction is unfortunately common, Sandra said, adjusting her glasses. People view prenups emotionally rather than practically. Let me show you something. She presented case studies of divorces where lack of protection resulted in devastating financial losses. One particularly resonated: a tech entrepreneur who lost 60% of his company to a spouse of 3 years who had never contributed to the business. Without protection, Washington state considers most assets acquired during your marriage as community property regardless of who earned it, Sandra explained. Future growth of your current assets could be considered partly hers even if she never contributes a dollar. I left with sample agreements and a growing knot in my stomach. That evening, I prepared Allison's favorite dinner, pan-seared salmon with roasted vegetables, and opened a bottle of the Pinot Noir we had discovered on our Willamette Valley trip. I wanted to revisit our discussion I began after dinner, pulling out Sandra's simplified outline. This protects both of us while ensuring we are fair to each other. Allison's initial cold response melted into tears. Do you know how this makes me feel? Like you are preparing to leave me someday. That is not it at all. I insisted, reaching for her hand, which she pulled away. I love you. This is about smart planning, not lack of commitment. If you loved me, you would not insult me with this. Her voice rose. My parents taught me marriage is about becoming one unit completely. This keeps us separate. As our discussion intensified, her tactics shifted from hurt to anger to ultimatum. I am not signing anything. Either you trust me completely, or maybe we should reconsider this wedding. The threat stunned me silent. She continued. What would our guests think if they knew you demanded this? What would my family think? That you see me as a gold digger? That night ended in stalemate with Allison, insisting I choose between the prenup and our relationship. Over the following weeks, I noticed subtle changes in her behavior. She began asking detailed questions about my investments which had never interested her before. "Which of your properties has appreciated the most?" she asked during breakfast. "And how does the vesting schedule work for your shares in Cortex AI?" During a shopping trip, she lingered over a $24,000 watch, commenting, "Once we are married, we should upgrade your collection. A successful man like you deserves the best." Most concerning was an overheard phone conversation with her mother. "Mom, do not worry. After the wedding, we will have plenty of security. Yes, Washington State is very fair with marital property. At our friend's wedding, Allison introduced me to another couple as my fiancé, who just sold his company for millions. When the woman asked about our honeymoon plans, Allison answered, 'We are thinking the Maldives and Dubai. When you marry well, why limit yourself?' Each incident added to my growing uneasiness. The woman I thought I knew was revealing different priorities, yet I kept doubting myself. Was I being paranoid because of my parents' experience? Was I unfairly judging normal excitement about our future? The breaking point came on a rainy Seattle evening, 3 months before our wedding date. We sat in our living room, reviewing guest lists, when I gently raised the prenup topic again, having consulted with Sandra about a more generous arrangement. Allison slammed her laptop shut. "I cannot believe you are still on this. I have told you, repeatedly. I am not signing a prenup. You should trust me. Period." I looked at her, really, looked at her, and saw the determination in her eyes. This was her line in the sand. In that moment, clarity washed over me, like the rain against our windows. "You are right," I said quietly. "I do trust you." Her expression instantly transformed to victory. She hugged me tightly, kissing my cheek. "I knew you would come around. Now we can focus on our wedding without this dark cloud." She immediately returned to wedding planning with renewed enthusiasm, but something had broken inside me. That night, as she slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling, confronting an uncomfortable truth. The foundation of our relationship had fractured, perhaps irreparably. The next morning, I contacted Sandra for an urgent meeting and arrived at her office before lunch. She refused again. I explained, and I pretended to drop it. Sandra's expression remained neutral but concerned. "What do you want to do now? What are my options?" "If I proceed with the marriage without a prenup," I asked. She outlined several strategies, including post-nuptial agreements, which seemed unlikely given Allison's stance, and various asset protection approaches. One option stood out. You could temporarily transfer significant assets to a family member you trust with legal agreements, ensuring their return under specific conditions, Sandra explained. It is technically legal, but exists in an ethical gray area. Courts sometimes view this as fraudulent, if done purely to hide assets. "What if I genuinely want to protect family wealth that predates the relationship?" I asked. "That presents a more legitimate case," she replied. "But Derek, I have to ask if you need to take these measures, should you be getting married at all." Her question haunted me as I drove to my mother's house in Bellevue. Mom had remained single since the divorce, focusing on her career as a literature professor and building a peaceful life in a modest but comfortable home, surrounded by gardens. Over tea in her sunroom, I explained everything: the prenup refusal, the changes in Allison's behavior, and my growing doubts. "I warned you." "She reminded me of your father's second wife," Mom said gently. "Beautiful, charming, but always calculating. I thought I was being paranoid," I admitted. "But now I need your help." I explained Sandra's suggestion about temporarily transferring assets. Mom listened intently, her expression thoughtful. "This feels dishonest," she said finally, "but so does her refusal to protect what you have built." After much discussion, we agreed on a plan. Mom would become temporary custodian of my major assets, the bulk of my investment portfolio, my stake in 2 startup companies, and the mountain property I had purchased before meeting Allison. We would create legal agreements, ensuring their return after a specified period, with me retaining enough assets to maintain our lifestyle without raising suspicion. "I hope you are wrong about her," Mom said as we finalized our decision. "But if you are right, this protects what you have worked for." Over the next 3 weeks, I executed the plan with Sandra's guidance. The process required multiple meetings, complex paperwork, and careful timing. I kept our joint accounts funded and maintained my primary residence and daily use assets in my name. To anyone looking casually, nothing would appear different. Throughout this process, Allison continued enthusiastically planning our wedding. She upgraded to a more expensive venue without consulting me, selected a $85,000 dress, and added 100 guests to the invitation list. Mostly her family's business associates I had never met. "Honey, my parents want to invite the Richardsons. They could be amazing connections for your next venture," she explained, when I questioned the growing guest list. During dinner with her parents, her father casually mentioned, "Once you two are settled, you should consider joining our country club. The membership fee is steep, but the networking opportunities are worth it." Allison quickly added, "Derek can easily afford it, Dad. His portfolio generates plenty of passive income." I smiled politely while noting how her language had shifted from our future to, specifically, my ability to provide luxury. On social media, Allison began posting more about our engagement, always highlighting material aspects: the ring, our home exotic pre-wedding trips. One post particularly troubled me. "Cannot wait to start our forever life together." Number, future wife. Number, living the dream number. Married rich, with a photo of her showcasing the ring against the backdrop of my car. The final confirmation came when I discovered Allison had begun researching divorce lawyers in our area. The browser history on our shared tablet showed multiple searches for Washington state divorce settlements for wealthy couples, and how long before divorce to get half. When confronted, she claimed it was research for her friend going through a separation, but I never heard her mention this friend again. With the asset transfer complete and documented, I instructed Sandra to prepare the final piece, a formal letter explaining the legal status of my assets to be delivered when necessary. The moment arrived sooner than expected. 2 months before our wedding, during a dinner, I had prepared to discuss scaling back our increasingly extravagant plans. A courier delivered an envelope. The timing was intentional. "What is that?" Allison asked, as I signed for the delivery. "Legal documents from Sandra," I replied honestly. Opening the envelope and reviewing the contents, a formal notification that the majority of my assets had been legally transferred to my mother 6 weeks earlier, with specific conditions for their return. I slid the document across the table to Allison. "You should read this." Her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief as she scanned the pages. The color drained from her face, replaced by a flush of anger that rose from her neck to her cheeks. "What the hell is this?" she whispered, then shouted. "You transferred everything to your mother. $20 million, the investment properties, your company shares." "Not everything," I corrected calmly. "I kept our home and enough liquid assets to maintain our current lifestyle. The rest is family wealth that predates our relationship." Allison stood so abruptly, her chair toppled backward. "You sneaky, untrusting bastard. You did this behind my back. While I was planning our wedding, you refused a prenup." I stated simply, "You said I should trust you. This was my compromise." "Compromise." She laughed bitterly. "This is manipulation. This is, she sputtered, searching for words. "Self-protection," I finished for her. "The same protection a prenup would have provided, but which you rejected." What followed was the most revealing conversation of our relationship. As her anger escalated, the careful facade Allison had maintained crumbled completely. "You think you are so clever," she hissed. "Do you know what I have put up with? Your boring tech talks, your family issues, your insecurities, all because I saw our potential together." "Our potential, or my bank account's potential?" I asked quietly. Her expression confirmed everything before her words did. "Do not pretend you did not benefit from this relationship too. Having me on your arm at events, introducing your successful, beautiful fiancé to clients. I brought value. I loved you," I said simply. "That was your value to me." "Love does not pay for designer wardrobes or beachfront property," she snapped, then immediately regretted her candor. She quickly shifted tactics, tears replacing rage as she approached me. "I am just upset. You blindsided me. We can work through this." I stepped back. "There is nothing to work through. The wedding is off. The next 48 hours became a hurricane of emotions and logistics. Allison alternated between threats of legal action, tearful pleas for reconciliation, and vicious character attacks. She called my mother a conniving witch, and my best friend a jealous saboteur. She claimed she could sue me for fraudulent misrepresentation and emotional damage. When those approaches failed, she involved her parents. Her father, a retired bank executive, left threatening voicemails about his connections with securities regulators who would be interested in my unethical business practices. Her mother showed up at my office creating a scene until security escorted her out. Through it all, I remained calm, supported by Sandra's assurance that everything had been done legally. "They are hoping you will settle just to end the harassment," she advised. "Stay the course." Eventually, after consulting with lawyers who confirmed her weak position, Allison returned her engagement ring and collected her belongings from our home. Our final conversation occurred in the neutral setting of a hotel lobby with Sandra present. "You could have had a real partner," Allison said, her voice now devoid of emotion. "Instead, you will grow old with your money and paranoia." "I wanted a real partner," I corrected. "Someone who valued me beyond my financial worth." "Your actions showed me who you really are." "Whatever helps you sleep at night," she said, standing to leave. At the door, she turned back. "Just so you know, I would have signed a reasonable prenup eventually. I just wanted to see how far I could push you." Clearly not very far at all. Whether this was true, or a final attempt to unbalance me, I will never know. After she left, the real healing began. The first month was hardest, canceling wedding arrangements, explaining to friends, doubting my judgment at every turn. I questioned whether I had been unfair, whether my parents' divorce had made me incapable of trusting anyone. I started seeing Dr. Marshall, a therapist, specializing in relationship trauma. "Trust issues are complex," she explained in our sessions. "There is a difference between healthy caution and paranoia. Your instincts were trying to protect you." Jason proved invaluable during this period, accompanying me on hiking trips where we could talk freely among the towering pines of Olympic National Park. "You did not just dodge a bullet," he told me. "You dodged a nuclear missile." 3 months after the breakup, I began reconstructing my life. With Sandra's guidance, we reversed the asset transfers now, with stronger legal protections in place. I renovated my home, removing all traces of Allison's influence, and creating spaces that reflected my true preferences: a minimalist office overlooking the lake, a music room with my father's old vinyl collection. I refocused on work, developing a new security protocol that attracted significant industry attention. At a conference in Boston, I presented the technology without the anxious need for validation that had previously driven me. My worth existed independently of others' perception. Gradually, I began casual dating again, but with clearer boundaries and expectations. I discussed financial values early in relationships and observed how potential partners reacted to both success and setbacks. I learned that authentic connections existed, people who valued the journey alongside the destination. 1 year after the broken engagement, I received a text from Allison. "Miss you. Made a mistake. Can we talk?" I read it once, then deleted it, without responding. Some doors are better left closed. Now, 2 years later, I understand that while trust forms the foundation of love, blind trust is just blindness. There exists a healthy middle ground between cynicism and naivety, a place where you can open your heart while keeping your eyes wide open. The prenup conversation with Allison revealed something crucial that had nothing to do with money. It showed our fundamentally different views on partnership. A truly loving partner respects your need for mutual protection. They understand that trust is earned through actions, not demanded as an entitlement. I recently met someone who suggested her own prenup when our relationship became serious. "My business is my baby," she explained. "I would never want you to feel entitled to it, just as I would never expect access to what you built before me. What we create together will be ours, the rest remains individual." Her words reflected exactly what I had always sought: respect for the past while building a future together. Have you ever had to protect yourself from someone you thought loved you? How did you handle that difficult situation? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share it with friends who might benefit from this experience. And remember, sometimes the greatest act of self-love is maintaining healthy boundaries with those closest to you. Thank you for listening, and may your relationships be built on genuine trust, not blind faith.